Gaming and BS episode 110. It's a trap! Thank you for joining Gaming and BS. Sponsored by Gamehole Con. Gaming convention in Madison, Wisconsin in November, first weekend of November. Get your ass to Gamehole Con. Go to gameholecon.com for more information. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
I'm Brett. Welcome to the show. Welcome back, folks.
Yeah, welcome back.
Sean and I went for a little motorcycle ride yesterday, Saturday. We thought, hey, this might be the last decent weekend. And of course, today was like freaking gorgeous. Yesterday was like rainy, drizzle shit. And today was beautiful. And today was a day neither of us could ride. So it goes. It's Wisconsin.
Yeah, so we got that going for us, which is
totally got that going for us.
Pretty nice.
Absolutely. We did get up to Vanguard Games, a little game shop in Reedsburg, Wisconsin, which is a cool place.
We saw MD.
We totally did. Michael Drescher.
Yeah, we finally got him his stuff.
Yeah, from episode, 100? We're only 10 episodes behind.
That's 10 weeks.
10. Shut up, it's 10 episodes. Don't you're counting out weeks. We sound like bastards.
It was a logistics issue.
Totally. And Michael one, he's a listener, so that means he's super cool to begin with. And two, he's super cool and was like, hey guys, just stop by. Don't bother shipping it to me. I live in Sauk. Just when you get a chance, bring it on over. So here we went. I finally had a chance. We got there. It was good.
And he works at a liquor store.
Yes, he does. He works at a liquor store. Absolutely. And the one map, the hand-drawn painted map he showed us, oh my God, that looked really good.
So he's been working on an RPG, and he sent us something to try out and everything. So we should really kind of follow up with that. And
we absolutely should.
Yeah,
We've
kind of blown you off, Michael, and we apologize.
Well, I'll tell you, the other thing I really liked about our stop with Michael is his knowledge of Shadow of the Demon Lord. I did not know a lot about it. Just knew hints and pieces from people dropping different things, and he's pretty intimately familiar with it. So got some good insight from him. That was nice.
Indeed. It was. I always love meeting good gamers. And if they happen to listen to us, great. And if they don't, that's cool. But yeah, it's good to see them.
From announcements, let's see here. We have, Gamehole Con coming, as we've talked about, evercon.org. We still have room, obviously, for people to set up events. I would love to have more BSers who can make it to Central Wisconsin in the first part of January. I'd love to have more BSers come up there and run some events and hang out. It should be a damn good time. So hopefully you can see some folks there. Again, evercon.org. Get on out there if you can and get your badge, sign up, get in there, get some events rolling.
How many events are you running up there, Brett?
I'm running the convention. I don't have a lot of time to run events, Sean. That's why I'm trying to get you to come up there to carry the gaming and BS banner for me. Whoa. No. I run the con, you run the events.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just got to get the Sean train to stop up there. We'll be fine.
It's the wrong train.
That's totally the wrong train.
That's get us banned train.
Yeah, that's true. Well, if that doesn't do it, something else will. So, shall we move on?
Let's get into random encounter.
Do it.
All right, random encounter. Got a couple this week. Brett, you want to start? You want me to start? What do you want to do?
They're both pretty hefty. I'll start with the first one here. Good Lord. Tony Baker calls BS. He says, good evening, friends. I was going to put this in G+, but it was too long. He figured he'd be a real bastard, make us read it. I like this Tony Baker. He's my kind of asshole. I like this. Oh, I'm kidding you, Tony. It's good to have you right in. This is cool stuff. So episode 107, he's calling BS. He says, first, let me say I appreciate your attempt at covering an evil campaign. However, I felt it very clear to me that you hadn't played one, at least not any time recently.
Well, every campaign I run is evil because the player characters are evil. I mean, even if their alignment is kind of good, they're really they're evil.
So he continues, the longest running game I've been in is an evil campaign going on 3 years. I would apologize for length of this post, but you really did it to yourself. Well, we probably did.
Yeah.
He continues, let me explain some of the things that make an evil game great. One, everyone and everything is against you. You're the criminals, the villains, the whatever. If you think you can just parade around the streets with unicorn heads and paladin spleens, you are wrong. Oh.
Eh.
Even if the government kingdom power is evil, they are not chaotic. If you threaten their order, they will come after you. So your group had better work together and it better be smart about it or you'll all be dead. Example, we fought our way through an ancient temple and it cleared it out when we discovered a shield of arrow attraction. Basically, it increased armor class versus ranged attacks. Even though it was a low magic game and we didn't hardly have any magic items or at that point money, it was decided unanimously that the shield would go to me as I was a tank. If I go down, the enemy flood the rest of the group. In the words of The Simpsons, number 2 here, there are 3 ways to do things: the right way, the wrong way, and the max power way. Isn't that just the wrong way? Yeah, but faster. I remember that episode. That was a good one where Homer changes names to Max Power. Anyhow, evil games are all about the ebb and tide of power. When you cut corners and ruffle feathers to get what you have, you get power much faster. But the cost inevitably and explosively returns to you. An evil game is about acquiring power, but even more so defending what you have. Example, in our evil game, one of our members is a necromancer. The game is low magic and spells can be hard to come by. We discovered that a local jewelry seller had a selection of spells. We were unable to buy the spells. We came up with a way to cheat her out of it. We were very pleased with ourselves. Fast forward a few game months, and we discovered that she bought the only Onyx mine around and was not releasing it to the market. This is important because basically all animate dead spells require Onyx. Oh, very nice. So yeah, ha ha ha, back at you, bitches. I took all your stuff. Oh, main material components gone. Number 3, when you were forced to work together because good guys want to kill you and bad guys want to kill you, you really can't trust your quote unquote allies. What have you done for me lately is and should be the temperament between the PCs. As you are all roughly equal in power and any upset to the group dynamic will surely draw the wrath of the rest of the party, the PCs develop delightfully clever machinations against one another, serving as an important check in each other's power. Another example, we attacked enemy necromancer's hideout at the end discovered that there was a very powerful throne made of bones and so forth in the last room. I want to know what the so forth is. Was it like bones and spleens or bones and
entrails?
Entrails?
Yeah.
Entrails. It's bones and entrails. That's what it is from here on. Anyway, this would help a necromancer focus, the power and control a lot more undead. I was the first one in the room, and the necromancer was battling in a different part of the dungeon, so I took my chance to utterly smash the object that kept my quote-unquote ally in check. Ooh, nice. Evil characters are easy to motivate. Number 4, when you make an evil character, you have a clear goal in mind: political power, magical power, vast wealth, an army of assassins, increase your evil god's influence, etc., etc., etc. In order to get things accomplished, you have to work together. This is a fantastic narrative, gaming BS buzzword, that a good campaign cannot have. This makes one PC convince the other PCs of the value of his objective, whether that is through bribery, promises, or some other compensation. Inter-party negotiation often has interesting results. Example, my objective was to become king. I frequently would forego rewards for our quest, giving a larger share to allies in order to complete activities towards complete objectives, for my goals. First, I became the leader of a small town and began construction efforts to fortify it. My quote-unquote allies then purchased quarries and lumber mills and camps, and I used government money to buy the supplies from them at inflated prices. Thanks for the lessons, Tony Soprano. Then we attacked the kingdom with an army, and when we won, I appointed them to positions of power, granted them special access and vast wealth. Before I stepped out of that character, having accomplished all of his goals, I sent them on their next quest to go to the next world. Now, with regards to your objection, I'll be relatively brief and only address on the one I've heard the most. Brett said something to the effect of evil games are base and childish. I think this is an unfair characterization. Narrative, how many am I up to now, is buzzwords, of course, is always at the forefront. If the things you are doing, PC or GM, don't drive a narrative, you are wasting everyone's time. Look at a show or books if you have time, like Game of Thrones. It would be fairly easy to argue that every character on that show is evil. Kind of to your point there, Sean, characters being evil bastards. Does that make the intrigue any less interesting? How about The Sopranos or Deadwood or The Shield or The Americans? The list is pretty long. If you want to just take some time to write all the disgusting things you can think of, you probably have problems. Well, let's not paint every game with the same brush, eh? Buzzwords count? Oh, only 3. Very sorry. Not bad. So I do believe, I think this goes back to our failure to properly define what we meant by evil, right? So when I ran Vampire for 15 straight years, everyone in that game was fucking evil. They're vampires. They're nasty, quasi-rapist creatures that hunt people down and drink their blood and leave them for dead in alleyways. They're bad people or creatures. And they did all of this type of thing, trying to take over cities and wreck people and screw each other over. Hell, Amber, the role-playing game Amber, is a bunch of amoral, near godlike creatures that are doing everything they can to essentially screw each other over. At least that's how it's always been when I've played or run it. So I get what he's saying, and I believe Tony is capitalizing or able to capitalize on the fact that we did not define evil very well. So I think we're going to have to come back at that one at some point. Sean, what do you think after this?
It's all perspective.
Okay.
One person's evil is another person's good guy.
Yeah, I guess. And one of his examples, I shouldn't say one, but like Game of Thrones, Sopranos, Deadwood, and so on, those games with the anti-heroes, right? I mean, the Punisher is a quote-unquote hero in Marvel Comics. He murders people. He flat out murders people. Yeah, he murders bad people. Dexter, he's a serial killer that only murders other killers. He's still a bad person, essentially. Murderers being one of those things that are normally not considered very good. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't mean that it makes a bad narrative or a bad story. So if you were to do that and you were to say, hey, I want to run a Game of Thrones or a game where we have a bunch of amoral crackpots trying to control a different city or something, that could totally make for a very good story. It just, I think he's right that when you are evil like that, then you have everybody and their brother is out to get you. So it's interesting. I like it. This is a good rebuttal, I think, to what we had gone through. So very good stuff, Tony. I applaud you, sir. Anything else, Sean?
No,
nothing. That was a nicely done email and message.
It was a nicely done email. It was well put, and I actually agree with them very much.
I think I have to as well.
But
good stuff.
That's the thing, though. When you're starting to talk about good and evil, what is evil? Like Hellraiser's probably evil. Like it's always kind of like this, clowns are evil.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows that.
Right. They put makeup on, they're really creepy.
Yeah. They deserve to be shot. Yeah, that's just how it goes.
I mean,
well, in the leg, just as a warning.
They scare little kids.
Exactly.
Some grow up to be adults and be emotionally scarred from that.
All right. That was good stuff, though, Tony. Thank you very much, man. And next one from the Mongrel is over to you, Sean.
Pure Mongrel. Comments on AAS on G+. Good day, all BSers.
Don't do that.
Come on, man. I got this down.
No, you don't.
I'm going to make it one of our patron goals.
That we do the entire episode in really bad accents?
Yes.
Done. We could do that.
That's simple.
Yeah, but don't do it now, though.
Why not?
Wait till we get the...
How do you guys deal with consequences of PC actions? By this, I mean if the characters make choices that creates conflict between them and allies and or the law of the land.
You just sound like a drunk farmer at this point.
I don't.
You totally do.
What do you call Australians drunk farmers, Brett?
No, I'm saying you sound like a drunk farmer.
I sound like an Australian.
No, drunk farmer. Australians sound better.
Wow. Hey, write in. Let me know which side.
Write in and let us know which side you're on.
Team Brett or Team Sean. Oh man, I just got a hellacious cramp in my leg.
See, that's what happens when you use bad. All right, you want me to carry this one?
I will finish it. Oh my God, that is painful. Anyways, there you go. It's some insight to. Oh my God, that is. Oh, that freaking hurts, man. Oh, Jesus.
That's what happened. That's karma right there.
Oh,
do a bad Australian accent and you cramp up.
I'm trying to wait for it to subside. Okay, here we go.
Oh,
wow, that is something else. My apologies.
If you weren't watching the video on that was kind of funny because his eyes almost bugged clean out of his head.
I usually get him in my calf, but this is on my thigh, man, right behind the back of my thigh. Anyways, it is subsided. I'm good now. On the surface, this seems like a no-brainer. The town watch gets called into action. The PCs are banished. A warrant is issued for arrest, etc. But what if the logical consequence derails the game? Here's an example I'm currently contemplating. Backstory. A number of sessions back, the party had a fight in a house of ill repute. Ah, crap!
All right, I'll read.
Jesus, man. Ow, God. I don't know how it's even creating, man. I'm going to get through.
No,
I'm going to get through this. I got to stand. All right.
We're going to go long.
Well, we're not going to go long. Let me get this thing down. I'm going to get this down. My God, that is. I got my right thigh wrapped up because it's been bothering me when I run, you know.
So I think what's happening is the mongrel is down in Australia right now with a Sean and Brett
voodoo doll.
Yeah. And as soon as he found that you're reading it,
yeah, he's stabbing me in the freaking leg. Oh my God!
He's got a hairpin just driving in there.
Right, here we go. Jesus, holy cow!
Keep it up, mongrel. This is funny shit.
Backstory: a number of sessions back, the party had a fight in a house of ill repute. We call that yeah, I know what that's all about.
I'm assuming that the house was not up to code and there was plumbing issues and electrical problems.
An OSHA mess.
Exactly. Totally an OSHA mess. No hand railings, nothing.
In a house of ill repute with a demon. Said demon possessed the working girls of this high-class establishment, and the party felt forced to dispatch them.
Oh, okay.
Okay. There is an autonomous organization in our setting that dispenses justice. And when the PCs next return to town, I plan to have them arrested and put on trial. Oh boy. The underlying story is that while the locals know the PCs are not cold-blooded murderers, a figure behind the scenes is scheming to get the PCs and the judges in the one spot for an attack. Great idea in theory, but there is a very real possibility that one or more PCs may fight instead of being taken into custody. Oh,
as they will. You try to arrest a PC, they're going to fight you.
Pure mongrel, bank on it, baby.
Oh, yeah.
It's inevitable. You're lucky if you only get one. That does it.
Well, he says, what's the next line here?
They are ex-slaves and have legitimate reasons they may take this route.
Yeah, I think grabbing a character who was an ex-slave and saying, here, I'm going to put some more chains back upon you, I don't think that'll go well.
No. If they kill the judges or their troops, the party become wanted criminals and lose access to their patron. While all the possibilities from this scenario can lead to great role-playing, and story creation, and I feel this scenario is a legitimate consequence of past actions, am I setting up players up for a fall, or is this a legitimate test / challenge that the players? What would you do?
So my first thought here, Mongrel, is no preconceived, only one ending, right? Don't do the railroad. This is where people complain about railroads and so forth, is when, look, the only thing that's going to happen is if they do this or this, they lose access to their patron, and this is what happens. It's not really an if-then statement. It's not binary. It's not they do one or the other. The players are going to come up with a ton of different things. I think what you need to do is, I don't know the world. I don't know the patron solution or setup. If they lose access to a patron, could another one perhaps swoop in and help them out and become a new patron? Is that possible? Could the judge have magical abilities to help him escape, or to somehow summon assistance, or something like that? Is there a way that when the bad guys attack to try to kill everybody, it's very well known that, oh my God, this was a complete setup and this isn't what it is? If the demon that they dispatched, or if they didn't dispatch the demon who possessed the working girls in the brothel, if that hadn't happened, or if the demon is still around, does he or that thing, does it make another cameo? Or perhaps one of the NPC women from the brothel or something comes in to defend the player character. So there's a ton of different things that can happen there. I think it is a logical conclusion that if they broke the law and did something absolutely horrible and wholesale slaughtered a bunch of people, yeah, they could end up getting arrested or have something happen. Excuse me. I think one of the, knowing full well that you have a group of people that will probably fight going to jail, I think you might need to do something different, like having them, if there is a king, a prince, a queen, or Perhaps their patron calls them before they even come to town and says, "Look, we're going to sneak you in because they're on the lookout for you. This is really bad. You need to do something to clear your name because you are now wanted criminals in this town, or it's going to go really bad for you." There's they can say, "Nope, fuck all that. I'm going into town anyway." And then, of course, they have made the choice. You've given them options. They've made the choice to go into town and then get arrested and deal with the fallout. But I think if the only option they have is go to town, potentially get arrested, have the arrest occur, potential murder and mayhem ensues, and then there is at the end, whoop, sorry, this is legitimate cost for your actions. That's going to feel railroady and like they're slammed into something. That's my first thought off the top of my head. Sean?
So I agree with Brett to some degree. Well, I mean, I think I'm going to say the same thing, but probably in a different way.
That's fine.
As long as you don't if you don't heavy hand it, like I'm going to arrest them and that's going to be an arrest and that's the way it's going to be. And they're going to be in jail, period. And end of discussion. If one of them does resist, play it out, see if they can see it, what happens, play to see what happens.
Yes.
And then based on that, there's consequences that are going to roll into that. So maybe one of them escapes.
Maybe one of the jailers or arresting officials there, when they say, "We didn't do it, it was a demon." He goes, wait a minute, what demon? We knew nothing about a demon. What do you know about demons? You could like you said, play to see what happens. Depending how the interaction goes, more ideas can spawn from that.
Well, and if they're on trial, say they're on trial, it's not a done deal. Like they may have done something poorly, but are they tried in front of a group of their peers? And maybe there's people that are like, yay, they did the right thing. But okay, take that for what it's worth. I understand that there's strings being pulled behind the scenes, right? That's kind of his thing, that there's somebody scheming to get these guys off the street.
Correct.
But you have to divulge that eventually. You have to kind of hint towards that. Maybe there's somebody on the inside, like a bailiff or somebody, maybe it's one of the jury people. Somehow, maybe there's a defense person that's assigned to take on this case. However you set up the judicial structure of how this is going to take part, maybe they're an advocate for the party and they are going to give the party clues that will say, you're on the hook for this. Somebody is really manipulating everything behind the scenes. Then let the players kind of take it from there on what they do. But note that they also have to be aware of that because maybe what happens if they kill quote unquote innocent people, because they're going to be apprehended. Maybe they're told. I've been in this situation where the party wants to take that heavy hand. They want to I'm going to kill this person because they're going to imprison me. I'm going to rise up and I'm going to stab them. And this person hasn't really done anything other than do their job and they're going to put them in manacles. Maybe it's somebody just putting their hand on the PC shoulder and saying, hey, this isn't the time or place, whatever, hinting at there's something going on. Don't get yourself into bigger trouble.
The other piece with that too is that if you have one person who has an organization or nefarious goal and behind the scenes planning, that person or a group usually has an antithesis. There's somebody who's against them. There's another group, which is, again, is it their patron or is it a rival patron that perhaps sees an opportunity? So it's, this other person is going to feed them stuff and send them, they're arrested. But in the process, each character is given a key to their manacles and look, just so you know, this is all for show. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Here's the key. Don't worry. We'll march you into town arrested and we'll take care. We'll slip you some information or something. It's totally fine. The other option is that they go through this, they find out cool stuff, they end up escaping, they don't go to town, or they're spirited away through some other group, or whatever. And maybe they're on the run now.
Right.
Maybe they're wanted. They've got a poster up in every freaking town that says, look, these assholes, come get them. Wanted. And the next phase of their entire adventure is, how do we clear our name? Right.
Right.
The judge believes this. Everybody else believes this, except for this whole crew of people, or somebody slandering us, or whatever the case is. So, well, I think as long as you do what Sean said, play to find out what happens, and no preconceived, it's going to do this, right? If they fall right into the, You walk right down the crocodile's mouth. Hey, guess what? You fucking get eaten. That's just what happens. But let them find other ways and options.
Yeah, and what happens when the players realize that there's this conspiracy behind what's going on, and what does that look like? Is that a bigger thing that they not only need to clear their names, but they need to take action against that? So now they have a group goal in getting rid of that group or whoever that is, the big
Absolutely.
bad, right?
But the whole we must clear our names is a thing.
Right.
You can have I know Mongrel plays a lot of Savage Worlds, and so I don't know that system. I'm not like a Ron Blessing or Serrano here, so I can't point to the system itself, but there's got to be ways to cause pain, right, within the system. Hey, look, you can't get a Benny refresh because your name is mud at this point. You need to do something to clear this up or clean this up or whatever, or no rest for the wicked. You're being chased. So there's ways to have the logical consequence impact them, but not derail the entire game. You can have it be there, and it's something that they have to deal with. The shit ain't going away, but it's a component to the larger story.
So Mongrel, whatever happens, you got to let us know.
Absolutely.
Let us know.
If anything that Sean and I spouted out there makes any sense, let us know. If you think, yeah, boys, I tried all that and it didn't fucking work, you suck. Let us know that too. I'd like to know. I am really curious to see what happens.
Yeah, let's get into the main topic.
Let's do it.
Traps. They'll snare every one of you.
Freddie Mercury's turning over in his grave right now.
Traps.
So traps, those lovely little things that cause so much pain and annoyance. And Sean and I were kind of kibitzing the other day around old school gaming. I was thinking about some of the adventures that my kids have written. One of my favorite ones I told Sean yesterday over lunch was my my son had Connor had made his first dungeon, and at this one section, I think every 5 feet or 10 feet was a trap. There's a pit trap, a poison, there was something. It was like just death. This constant, traps. And at the end of this huge hall of death traps was the bathroom for the dungeon. There was nothing there. There was no room. There was an Atiug in the bathroom, basically, is what it turned out to be. So we, and I looked at him and said, so this is an active dungeon where these orcs live. Yeah. I said, how the hell do they ever go to take a shit without getting destroyed? I said, because every 5 feet they have to remember to do something. He was like, oh yeah, I didn't think about that. So
there's some treasure buried in that shitter somewhere. That's all I got to say. Or there better be, or I'm punching that GM in the face.
Yeah. I don't care if he's 14 at the time. I'm going to clock him. Yeah. Hey.
That'd be the only thing that would stop me, but.
Wow, no judge would convict you after you told him what happened.
Well, that's true. Hey, this is what happened, Your Honor. Oh, well, in that case, yeah.
You little fucker. Whack. He'd lean across him with a gavel. Anyway, I did not hit my kid for that.
Yeah, we do not advocate hitting
anything like that.
That's anybody under 14 and those or 18, unless, of course, they're doing dumb shit in a dungeon.
Yeah, once they're 18, you beat the shit out of them.
Yeah, and just bank it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, remember that time when you were 14?
What? Push, knock him down in the snow. It's good stuff. Anyway, so
yeah.
Trap. I mean, I've heard other podcasts talk about this. Misdirected Market hinted at it, and a few others. Traps are fun, and they can be kind of cool. There is something historical within the game sphere, right? It's part of an old school thing where you would go down, and every tomb had them. You think of Indiana Jones, the first one, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and even. Any of them really.
Throw me the, I will throw you the whip.
Whip, exactly. Or the he puts his hand in the light, and these spoilers. Spears come screaming across, open pits, boulders flying. He's got the Last Crusade, all the different crazy shit to get the Holy Grail. It's just cool and fun. It fits a certain genre very, very well. So, Sean, from a game master just talk from a game master perspective for a minute here. Do you like them? What do you think about traps? What do they do for you?
Yeah, they're great.
Why are they great, Sean?
Because you get this train on this track, and if they want to get off the train, you just put traps along the side.
So it's kind of a shock collar approach for you.
Yes, that's a perfect analogy, Brett. Oh, hey, you want to get off this train? That's cool.
So it's like the
Kapow.
invisible fence for your dog.
Yeah.
I think you'd like to. Yipe! I don't want to go there. Nice. Okay.
I mean, that's just one of many tactics that I
One particular-
may incorporate.
In order to keep people on track, as it were. Okay.
Yeah. No,
So
they're
the
good.
other-
They're good. I like them. I don't typically come up with them off the top of my head, but they're. I think many of them make more sense nowadays than they used to.
Yes.
I mean, would you agree? Because back in the
So-
day, there would be traps like, why is there a trap here?
So you have the Grimtooth book, right? The analogy. The
Yeah,
big,
that thing's
heavy-
crazy.
Yeah. But that was shit people would come up with. Because back in the day when you had and people will slap us for this, but it could be very adversarial, right? Where it was players, not player characters, it was players and game masters pitting wits against each other. You didn't have skill checks and so forth, or the thief did. But anybody could try to detect a sliding corridor by, rolling marbles down the dungeon floor, pouring water, trying to see if there's cracks or loose flagstones or something along those lines, tapping with the proverbial 10-foot pole. I prefer to tie a halfling thief on the end of my 10-foot pole and kind of swab the dungeon like a big Q-tip just to make sure I check for all the traps.
That's a good tactic. I like that. I'm going to write that down.
Good idea. Anyway, from a game master perspective, there is one of the things that traps can do in a raw dungeon crawl, just thinking dungeon crawl for right now, is it can slow the party down. They've got a crunch. They're on a certain type of path or pace. If they are foolish, traps have the ability to not only slow them down, but attrition, right? Hit point attrition, magic item use, healing spells, armor, disease, all sorts of crazy things, even just time and raw equipment of 50 feet rope being used to climb in, climb out, do this, do that. The time, and other, basically just an attrition component of it can be something from a game master perspective to kind of whittle things away from player characters. It's going through this slog almost. Slog is a horrible word because it makes it sound terrible, but kind of got to go through, got to be careful, got to pay attention, got to be well stocked and supplied in order to make it work.
Well, and I don't know, never mind I'm going to protect the NPC's stuff.
Yeah. I mean, that's the other piece, right? And that's kind of a world setting perspective, right?
So your take, what you were talking about is all meta. What I'm talking about is in game. Like there's a point in having a trap there.
Yeah. Well, that's where I think your earlier statement is some of the traps now make more sense. Where if I have something built in here, I'm like, look, this was a tomb and it was designed to make sure no tomb robbers came in and took the great pharaoh's thing or the great Poobah's, amazing scepters. Or this is the place where they buried the demonic possessed artifact so no one else would get it. And there's a goddamn good reason why there's traps and other sorts of nefarious things all around this dungeon, because no one should be getting this horrible demonic artifact. We don't want people holding that thing. You got to hide it and you want to protect it. I think from a player's perspective, traps, if there's too many of them, right? If it becomes like my horrible example that my son put together, where they're just like freaking everywhere, they're annoying. They become a nuisance. And if they don't have a purpose, I'm like, oh, this trap was out here because it stops people from tearing down this dungeon corridor. It slows them down, gives the guards time to show up and pour boiling hot oil down the murder holes. Okay, great. I get it. And the other thing from a player perspective is it can add to the world setting component as well, right? As you said, there's a reason why it's here. If you're going somewhere and there's a trap, you're like, okay, well, this thing is obviously important. Is the box locked? Yes. Is the box trapped? Yes. It's a poison needle. Ooh, whatever's in this box. There's a reason. Why would you put a poison needle trap on this box if there wasn't some goodies inside?
To prevent those murder hobos from stealing other people's shit.
Absolutely.
Player characters. Robbers. They're robbers.
All of them.
Thieves.
So I think now, usually when I talk about traps or I think about them, I tend to think the dungeon style stuff like we just kind of laid out. The other part, though, some of my favorite traps that I ever pulled on player characters were in my vampire game. And those were more social setups. or bad guy plots where you basically, it was kind of the, oh my God, Mr. Bond, you walked in here and boom, you're trapped. Oh, great. You're chained down. Do you expect me to talk? No, I expect you to die. Oh, fuck. It's a trap. You're stuck there. It's a horrible death machine. Too bad. You're stuck. So what I did, these guys had this wonderful, beautiful plan, and they had were working with Dracula, and they had all this stuff sorted out, and Dracula set them up completely so that he could take what they were after. And it was an absolute trap for them. They ignored all the signs, they paid no attention, and they were left holding the bag. All the goods were gone, and Dracula just disappeared out of Chicago. Like, God damn it. He suckered us. He played us. Essentially, in my mind, that's a trap. Had they paid better attention, put up different safeguards, done something, they would have disarmed, if you will, all of those societal machinations that Dracula had put into place to sucker these fools into doing something for him, where they basically went down the dungeon corridor blind and running, saying, hey, there's treasure at the end of this door, and bam, 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 they got there, all beat to hell, and the other guy just walks down the dungeon, takes it, says, thank y'all, and leaves. Kind of like Belloc at the end of the one of the very first scenes of the Raiders of the Lost Ark. Jones goes all the way in, gets the idol's head, solid gold, makes his way out. Oh my God. And there's Belloc, the bad guy. He's standing there with a ton of Jovitos natives with poison darts and blowguns and arrows and spears. He's like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I just let you do all the work, you dumb shit. And I'm taking this from you. That's a trap in my mind. What do you think?
Yeah, I guess it could be. I don't know if I would call it a trap necessarily in that respect. But I do know where you're going. Like when they go to Star Wars and they're going to attack the Death Star and the shields aren't down and they come out of hyperspace and they're like, they were expecting them.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Yeah, exactly. Admiral
Right.
Akbar.
Where that was more planned. I think Belloc, I don't know if he necessarily planned it or he just happened to be there.
Well, regardless of how the meta works, even if that's just happened to be the example I came up with.
Yeah.
I think that concept of the bad guy setting up, and I've had player characters in the planning phase. It's like, look, we're going to set this up and I'm going to catch the bad guy.
Right.
It's Scooby-Doo, right? We're going to set this up and look, it's Old Man Withers. You set this thing up and you catch somebody. You catch the monster, you catch the bad guy, bring him back alive, whatever the case is, you have to catch them. To do that, you set up some sort of a trap. And I think that instead of, I think the purpose of the trap is essentially, it's the best types of traps to me, help to drive the narrative in some way, right? Help drive the story. And where that comes down to is it's not just some crazy ass Grimtooth special trap with a giant crab in it and some weird ball bearings and flaming needles or whatever else is in the Grimtooth trap.
I would refer to those as mechanical traps, Brett.
Yes, but even so, the mechanical trap that's just there because the game master thinks it's neat and has nothing to do with the setting, has nothing to do with the storyline or the adventure, is not as effective as taking a mechanical trap that fits. Right? I'm going into...
I don't think anybody would argue that or against that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Well, I don't think they would argue against it now, but they used to constantly use that type of thing. The entire Grimtooth selection is all crazy ass traps that are not necessarily, I don't think they're not necessarily there to enhance the environment in any way, right? They're there to poke you in the eye and make sure that you lost your eye in the process. Ha ha ha. I fucked you because you as a player weren't smart enough to look for this.
Well, I think part of Grimtooth's traps, and I don't have the forward in front of me or the whole thing. I mean, they re-released it. There was a Kickstarter. They released like all the books in one. But anyways,
yeah, I have some of the original ones.
Yeah, the thing is though, you could use it as a complement to whatever you're building as a dungeon.
Yes, and
at the same time, you could laugh at half of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, some of
it is just crazy.
Right.
Yeah, they're absolutely ridiculous.
So I think Grimtooth the itself is kind of, hey, here's some traps if you want to use them, and then here's some traps if you really want to go off the deep end and just read about some of them that are just ridiculous.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
That's just my take on Grimtooth.
But I guess part of it, though, is that when you have something that leads... So You're in an ancient dwarven corridor. You're doing your thing, dungeon style. You check it out. The thief finds a trap, disarms it, explains what it is. The person who has the best dwarven lore, probably the dwarf in the party, if there is one or whatever, says, wow, this is definitely a classic dwarven style trap. It's designed to do this, that, or the other thing. That means we're close to the treasure room. That means we're close to a barracks. That means something. You can use those components as ways to feed data back. Even if, to use like a Dungeon World example of spouting lore, you can look at the dwarf, excuse me, player character can say, spout lore, essentially, I believe, from what I understand of my ancient, dwarven brethren, how they made their traps, this was designed by Master Trap Maker, or Dory of the Three Fingers, and this is how he always built his traps. We should be careful from here on out. That's a piece that you can use to add something to the dungeon other than just a mechanical thing that has no background, no story, and no reason to be there other than just to try to eliminate hit points.
Sure, yes.
Have you used like the social traps and stuff? I mean, actually you did. You totally did that in the Star Wars game we played.
I don't know what you're talking about, Brett.
You totally did that. You used our backgrounds against us, which was pretty cool, by the way.
Well, yeah, there's the obligation piece is what Brett is referring to.
Well, not only that, but in the for the Jewel of Yavin, when I fucked up and none of us could roll dice at the end, and I made it very well known that I was the one who was actively trying to screw over the hut for the jewel, I walked right in. He trapped me. He herded me specifically to a limo, and I had to throw an active grenade to get out of it. And I'm still essentially trapped because, socially speaking, my character is now a wanted criminal and terrorist.
Yeah.
So those social setups are just wonderful. And that's kind of what, honestly, it's kind of what the mongrel was talking about, right? A demon came, possesses a bunch of innocents, and they laid waste to a bunch of people who weren't, they happened to be possessed, but they weren't demons. They weren't evil people. They slaughtered them all. And now guess what? They're wanted men, and these men and women are going to get arrested, and their whole social structure could fall down around them because they fell for it. It's a trap.
Yes, I agree.
Okay.
A different type of trap, but yes.
Excuse me. So let me think. When you said earlier that you don't do traps kind of on the fly and so on. Were you talking specifically about dungeon style traps or social ones or anything and everything or what?
Well, I think you have to differentiate the two. So if it's a mechanical trap, what's the point of it? Where are you going to put it? Why are you going to put it where you're going to put it? One thing we haven't talked about, Brett.
What's that, Sean?
Or maybe we're going to get to it. I don't know. But it always seems as though traps are always presented to the player characters. So somebody's setting them, somebody's driving that, whether it be social or mechanical, right? The GM is conveying it to the player characters. The door is trapped. The chest is trapped. Or it's sprung. Boom, you come across the trap. Oh, you were trapped by the bad guys. They got us against the ropes. They trapped us, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
But what about the player characters, Brett?
Well, I mentioned that earlier. That's the whole Scooby Gang thing, right?
Right. Yes, you did touch on it. Yes, good point. But I think it's underplayed in role-playing games. I cannot remember ever having a thief or a rogue actually set up a trap.
Oh my God, that was like constant in my groups. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Oh, as soon as people figured out that they could disarm them, that was like one of the first house rules that we ever had in high school was that, well, if I know how to disarm pit traps, I could set one, right? Well, you can't just set a trap. Well, no, I can. I know how to dig a pit. I should be able to cover it up. I should be able to do that because if I can detect a poison needle, I should be able to pull together a poison needle. Can I? The whole traps, snares, pitfalls, that type of thing. That was. We actually had arguments with how long would it take to set up like a perimeter around the camp of snares and traps and all this crap. And the game master, Eric Porschafer, God, I love him for being a long suffering to us fools, would be like, look, it's going to take you like 8 hours to settle this crap up. You won't get any sleep if you do that, type of thing. Well, that was huge. That was huge for my group.
That is the advantage of having the game master come up with the traps because they've already been done. They've, the 8 hours, the 12 hours, the months or whatever.
Yeah, it takes a while to dig a 10-foot pit, but with hand shovels, even with a group of men to do it. It's still, you got 5 men and women digging a, 10 by 10 basically a 10-foot cube
Right.
of earth. That takes a lot of fucking time.
It's a lot of dirt.
It's a lot of goddamn dirt. And I can tell you from experience, after having to dig out water systems and stuff in our family's cabin in Michigan, there's a lot of sign left around that you just dug out about 10 feet of dirt, because there's mounds of that shit everywhere. It's very obvious that there's a freshly dug hole right here. It's very, very obvious.
Excavation, man. It's no joke.
No, without a backhoe, doing it by hand, it sucks ass is what it does.
Yeah, pit traps, good times.
But snares, that's where the rangers would always step in and say, oh, I have animal traps, right? As soon as they would find that stuff in the player's handbook or some splat book somewhere, they would buy 5 bear traps and have them on the pack mule and then lay them out around the camp. That was one of the arguments of the group's SOP for camping down, right? We'd come up with a list of, when we're done, the ranger does this. He puts out 5 bear traps. The thief sets up these snares. That this person does this. We had like this list of shit we would do so we could sleep throughout the night. Then, of course, the game has to be like, okay, fuck that. Dragon flies in. Shit, we forgot about flyers.
Yeah, death from above, man.
Yeah, it's harder to trap against. But I think,
undead even, or incorporeal.
Oh, Jesus, yeah, that was always fun. But I think the setting up of, if we throw out like digging pits and those type of mechanical traps, but trapping the bad guys verbally, I've had players where we have had a large social exchange. They're arguing with the mayor. They're arguing with the king. They're doing something with an individual, basically, who they want to socially disarm. They want to take this person and make he or she seem a fool and pulling over on them. And they know the person has a bad temper, and they find out what their hot buttons are, and they just lean on them as hard as they can. And they get that woman to just lose her shit completely and start screaming at the PCs, or this guy starts shrieking. He's just angry as hell that they dared question his authority on this matter, blah, 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 in front of the wrong group of people. Clunk, the social standing drops. That was a big deal in Vampire. You'd have all these different social ranking concepts, and they would do their best to set up the prince of the city, he or she, and crush them socially. So everyone thought that basically it was kind of the popular kids thing, right? They would suddenly no longer be popular because everyone would have caught them eating lunch with the wrong crowd or something stupid like that. But in, the game world terms. But those type of setups were a blast to watch as a game master.
Oh, yeah.
Have you done that, Sean, as a player? Have done the whole setup?
I've played rogues and thieves they used to be my core class, man. My go-to class. Never set a trap. I don't know if I can ever remember my dumbass freaking setting up a trap. It's just like, I don't know why the hell it never occurred to me. It's crazy.
Was a player, like, do you now, or do you have any recollection of setting up bad guys, or have players in your groups done that?
Yeah, I think there's always a scenario where you're trying to, like, here's what we'll do, and we'll plan it out where we'll trap the culprit or whatever. Sure, I think there's incidents of that. Nothing specific comes to mind, but I do think
it just dawned on me when we had the IG-88 droid, when Steve was playing the fast talking droid.
Yeah. And
we set up the guards at the Jewel of Yavin. We set them up a couple times to like steal pass cards and stuff.
Yes.
It was all basically a huge get these guys drunk so we can steal information from them or their pass cards or whatever it was. That whole part of the heist perspective. That was fun.
Yeah, see, some of that stuff, I don't know. It kind of runs the fine line of a trap, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
For me, a trap, typically, especially mechanically, you're encountering it. And, I guess it's maybe not as black and white as I would have thought, but typically a trap is going to hinder you from doing something. Where what you're talking about in the social space, I don't know if it's necessarily hindering anything, but you're gathering info.
Well, depending on what you end up doing or how you go about it, right, is you're trying to get something that doesn't belong to you, and you have to disarm the thing.
What?
Right. So it's almost like disarming the trap, disarming the individual by getting them drunk, setting them up, and getting them to spill the beans about the fact that, yeah, they totally know where this person is because he's been sleeping around on his wife for a month. I know where he is right now. Oh, really? Thanks. That's all I needed to know. And that person feels caught, or that person, if they ever realize what they said, they're like, oh shit. You feel trapped at that moment, or they feel trapped.
Right. There's a captured moment.
Yes.
Where I think
Correct.
if you're trying to infiltrate and you're trying to swindle, like in your example, the guards, and you're trying to obtain information, I don't know if I would classify that as a trap necessarily.
Fair enough. I guess where I'm going with that is that to your point, I think from the dungeon master perspective, the GM were presenting stuff to them like, hey, the bad guy set you up, like in like the demon in the Mongrels event example earlier. The demon essentially set them up, and they killed a bunch of innocent women because guess what? That's just you weren't thinking clearly. Again, Mongrel, I apologize. I'm kind of taking your idea here and running with it.
But that is the trap, right? He is setting it up like the bad guy's going, I'm going to do this. I'm going to have this, and they're going to possess all the women of the house of ill repute. And then those guys are going to come in and slaughter them. And then I'm going to spring out them. I'm going to somehow divulge that they're the ones that went in there and killed everybody, and that the law enforcement, should come and grab them. So that's kind of there's the trigger, and then there's the ensnaring of whether it be physical or social, right?
Yeah, something happens.
Yeah.
So, and then on so that can be fun. It can help drive, so on and so forth. But the other fun bit, I guess, where I think you're going is that when the players take those traps and set up the bad guys, right?
Sure.
The head of the Thieves Guild, you make him look foolish. You do something and you start to break them down so that they make a bad decision. That bad decision causes X to happen, which is exactly what you wanted. Like, damn, I did that thing that Sean's character always wanted. Oh, curse you. It's that rivals going back and forth perspective. We're trying to set each other up, right? You're setting somebody up so you can slam them down and take something from them. And much like a failed trap check in a dungeon, I set you up, boom, I dropped you down a 50-foot pit onto some iron spikes coated in super instant tetanus.
Right.
That's a thing. White Blue Mountain, one of my favorite poisons.
Oh, spoilers, man.
Sorry. Sorry. Spoiler. Instant super tetanus.
Instant super tetanus. Because I gotta get vaccinated against super tetanus.
Instant super tetanus.
Yes. When's the last time you updated your instant super tetanus immunization? Yes.
I do think though that there is. I mean, I think we all know. Or maybe it's not saying we all know means that people don't. But traps can be overdone. Any dungeon that is littered with traps, which is one of the reasons why people hate the Tomb of Horrors. Like, Jesus Christ, every time you turn around, something tries to kill you. Oh, the door eats you. This blows you up. You stick your head in there, it chops your head off. Oh my God. It's one of those things where if the agreement it's the social contracty thing, right? Where you're like, look, we're going to run old school. Really, what does that mean? We're going to run a dungeon. It's going to be a tomb. So we're talking like Tomb of Horrors tomb. Well, not quite that bad. I mean, there'll be traps. There'll be stuff. Okay. All right. I get this. There's probably some nasty thing in there. Doesn't want us in there. It's like any player worth their salt asks around, or even the preamble for the adventure. Like, look, this is the tomb of, Asarak, the Lich. Yeah. It says Lich right on the fucking tin. I guess what's inside the tin? A trap. This is what happens. It's one of those pieces that, if you know what you're getting into, you're like, yep, I'm in for that. I'm totally down for that. And if you're not, well, then you might need to, change a venue or a game may be in order. But then in like the social traps and the social machinations, that can be to Tony's point, like when you talk about the way he was running an evil game, when Tony Baker was talking about when you have, social machinations within the players. I'm setting you up. I watched my buddy Lenny and Boyd, those two guys, their characters, Vin and Mushiro, went after each other. They would set each other up. They would get together, partner up, help each other out. And at the end of it, Vin would be like, God damn, that little bastard got me. He took all my money. Fucker. Then he would work together with Mushiro 2 days later. God damn it, son of a bitch. He stole my nightclub. Oh, I hate that guy. And they went back and forth and back and forth. It was always a trap. They were setting each other up constantly. If you don't like that type of player versus player, that can be very frustrating as well. Right. So depending on the type of trap or what level it is that you're used to or willing to deal with, it can be potentially a deal breaker. And also you could get your, rule book chucked at your head if you go at it too much. When the trap is unavoidable, sorry, no chance to save. You open the door, you die. Poison glass.
As long as those player characters set it up specifically to trap the other person. Like, I think if a person's kind of dicking around and they're doing something together and they just happen to lift something off the other person, I don't think
that's not a trap. No, right. I'm talking about I would have tons of messages sent to me while I'm doing this. Well, I have Mashiro busy here. I send a note to this guy. He goes back and does this back end thing. Oh, while I'm doing this, I go over here and I take that. So they're all like keeping him busy and working it, and boom, took his nightclub from him.
Right. There's a setup, and then there's a trigger, and then there's whatever the result or the disabling. But yeah, I agree. But I think those elements have to make up a trap, whether it be social or mechanical.
Absolutely. Other piece, I agree with you. The other piece I think that you said there that I just keyed off of was it has to be avoidable, right? You could completely ignore the fact that this guy that Vin and Mushiro, you two have hated each other for like 6 months. And all of a sudden, Vin's buttering you up and being super sweet to you. And you just go with it. You didn't bother to question his motives. You didn't bother to think about the fact that you fucked him over 6 ways from Sunday last week. Like, I'm sure he's forgotten about it. Hey, we said we were all friends again. And you just walked into it. Or it says tomb of the Lich of the Undying Trap. You're like, oh, okay, I could totally walk down this corridor. I ignore that. I stick my head in here. I put my hand in there. Back off, thief. I can do this. Okay. There's a way to avoid this. There's a way to do it. However, the flip then is some of the concepts of you do this, you die, no save.
Well, right. I think what you're saying is there has to be an opportunity for the player character to overcome it or discover it at chance.
Yep. Overcome, discover at chance.
Right.
Or be partially, overcome can be wounded, not dead, poisoned, not dead. That type of thing. Like, hey, he took my stuff, but I'm not totally broke. He took my car, but I could walk home, or whatever it is. The ultimate finality of not only could I not avoid it, but has permanent debilitating effects upon me, up to and including death. That's hard to swallow.
Power word, kill traps.
Yeah, fucker.
No save, boom, Dan.
Yeah, that's... Yeah.
Yeah. Woot, woot.
But traps are goofy, too, because you have that player skill sometimes versus character skill. And I have seen players work other players in a social environment, or an NPC work a player, and the player doesn't think about their character skill, saying, oh, the character is actually much more astute about this than I am. I should probably, roll to check something. So that as a game master or even other players at the table, it doesn't hurt to say, hey, I'm a ranger. I know a bit about snares and traps and such out here in the wild. I could probably give the thief a hand, couldn't I? Bringing that stuff to the forefront is a good idea too, I think.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, even socially, like, is this a trap? Like, do you have somebody that's wiser? Because I think that's another thing with just players in general, and we've gotten into it a little bit, where it's like player knowledge and character knowledge, and how do you balance that, and making sure, right? Like, oh, you're the biggest dope in the party as a player character, but you're the smartest player, and now you're the barbarian and you're solving the problem. No, that's not going to work.
No.
Yeah.
Which is the other problem with the mechanical trap with no lead in, right? It's perfectly hidden. It's down the dungeon corridor. The barbarian says, I walk up and, I check the door to see if it's locked. Oh, sorry. A rune goes off and you die. Well, I would have seen a rune in the door. You didn't say you were looking for runes in the door. You never made us look check. Oh, for Christ's sake.
Well, that's why.
That could just be a huge blow up explosion between players and game master. Like, that's unfair. You didn't give me a chance. And I think that goes to, I talked about the episodes back, is like, okay, what are you doing? You just walking up and grabbing the door handle?
Right.
Feed it back to them. If it sounds like a bad idea when you as a game master say it out loud, chances are the players will correct you and say, no. Hang on a second.
Right. Well, that's why you got to do it for everything as a game master. You always got to, like, how are you grabbing the door? Oh, and you trip them up all the time. Just put that out there, even for doors that don't make any sense. Like, okay, well, how do you grab the door? with the knob? No, no way. And then somebody just opens the door and it opens there.
And in a social environment, if you're playing a game like Vampire or Amber or anything like that, where you're even a spy game, when you're trying to manipulate people and you're working this espionage ring or whatever it is. So you're talking to, I don't know, Sean Kelly, the spider. Okay, he's the spider. He's the one who manipulates everybody in this town. You realize his name's the spider, right? Ah, sure, you go to dinner with him. What could possibly go wrong? Nah, I'll leave my guards. I'll leave that guy behind. I'm sure I'll be fine. His name's the spider. You know that, right? Ah, I'm fine. It's like a web of deceit he's dragging you into. No, I'm good. I'm good. You willingly march down that hole, then, well, hell, you deserve to get fucking eaten or whatever happens to you. But it's especially the first trap, even the first mechanical one, if the first one you encounter in the dungeon kills half the party, as my son AJ did to Connor and I, that's a little rough. It can be a little rough. But I think that little question and answer bit that we just kind of outlined there is fun, I think, as a game master for players. And you don't have to get like super descriptive on everything. Just like, so the barbarian walks down the hall and he's just going to kick the door in. No, that's not what I said. That's what I'm hearing. Is that what you're doing? That little back and forth can take not only any mundane situation and make it a little more tense, but also makes the players realize that you're fucking paying attention to me, and not everybody gets the benefit of that out all the time. Because I can't just continually go, yeah, I guess you've always done the safest thing all the time. That's not realistic either.
How do you use traps in your campaigns or adventures? Write in and let us know some of the creative ways that you have done social traps or even mechanical traps, and why you did it, how you did it. Did it make sense? Or write in with some horror story that had a hallway of 20 traps leading up to a shitter.
Exactly. I don't think I'll ever forget that.
That was not done by a 14-year-old.
That was not done by a 14-year-old.
Or it was done by a 14-year-old you, right?
Oh, exactly.
Right.
Or, of course, if you want to call BS on the entire thing, feel free to do so.
That's right. All right, die roll. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points of gaming and geekery. We've got 2 apiece this week, and quite a few from listeners that want to let everybody know that they're creating stuff or somebody's created things that people should be aware of. So go ahead, Brett.
Cool. First one is artificial intelligence trained to kill humans in a video game. A controversial AI had been trained to kill humans in a Doom deathmatch. So there's a competition pitting our AI against human players in the old Doom video game. And a group of folks, 2 students in the U.S., caught a lot of flack after they published a paper about how they did it. And basically they called their AI Arnold, of course, after the Terminator. And this is one of those pieces where you look at this, you read it like, do you want Skynet? Because this is how you get Skynet. This is how this happens. Which is, again, one more reason why, if you're me and you see a robot or anything that's AI driven and seems to be acting as human, you kill it immediately and destroy it. Just word of wisdom, do that.
Very wise you are, Brett.
Of course I am. The next one I have, this is a cool bit. I posted this up on Google Plus, but I want to call it out here. New York libraries, a number of them used to have apartments above them where librarians and different people who would take care of the building, keep the boilers running and all that stuff, keep the heat on, would live. And a number of these apartments in New York above the libraries are either they're abandoned, have been for quite some time, they're uninhabitable, like they've got leaky pipes or they're not, suited for occupation at this point. But there's a bunch of them still around in New York. And this is one of those pieces. I read this. I'm like, this reminds me of a Book Hounds of London. This is a Delta Green. It's this really cool type of thing where there is essentially a secret apartment that very few people know about, like right above this building that everybody comes in and out of, tons of information and knowledge, all that stuff that's in a library.
Didn't we feature this before? Secret rooms? They were like behind the books and everything, and you had to crawl in to get to.
That was different. This is an actual apartment. That was a different one. That was behind bookstores, and this is actual ones that were built on purpose in New York, and they were supposed to be so that the people who live there had access to keep and maintain the libraries. So, honestly, I read this, and my first thought was Ghostbusters 1 when they go down into the library and there's a ghost in there. And I'm like, you know what? How do you get rid of that ghost? You find the freaking library apartment that she's tied to, and that's what she's locked into. So, I mean, there's a Call of Cthulhu adventure in there too. So that's good stuff. Take a look. It's fun. Sean, over to you, sir.
Yeah, so my first one, I think it was posted by Jason Morningstar. If you don't know Jason, he does Fiasco and a few other Night Witches RPGs. How H.R. Geiger invented sci-fi's most terrifying monster. An article on Vice, yes. Yes, so if you're not familiar with H.R. Geiger, he came up with the alien of aliens. And tis the season.
Yeah.
So spooky. Number 2, Karul Hisham, a.k.a. Hish Graphics, put out some Clone Trooper paper minis for free download. So Hish Graphics, obviously, Hish does some, Hisham has some, he's done graphic artists for DWD Studios. And so he put some together that you can go out and download if you are a Star Wars RPGer that needs some paper minis and Clone Troopers. Check it out.
Very nice.
We'll alternate on these, Brett?
Do it. You got the first one.
Well, actually, why don't you do the ones you posted?
I only have one. That's easy.
You did the first 2.
No, I didn't. I did the second one. Anyway, I'll do mine. Jim Fitzpatrick told us about a Maine locomotive graveyard. There is, and we're talking about the state of Maine. There's a locomotive boneyard deep in the forest of Maine that they say is both eerie and tragic. They've got some pictures posted up there. I see this and I'm like, this is where our guy Roger Braslett and other people. This makes me want to go out to Maine and just take a look at this. There's a video clip in there. It's just most locomotives are like 100 years old, abandoned during the Great Depression. It's just kind of crazy that in the middle of this forest are these old train tracks and big equipment just laying around. It's really kind of neat.
You're right, Brett. I did post a few of these. It's Chris Angelucci. Are we living in a simulation? So this is on The Guardian, which is not any wacky onion newspaper by any means, but in the beginning, when it basically sums it up or starts off, when Elon Musk isn't outlining plans to use his massive rocket to leave a decaying planet Earth and colonize Mars, he sometimes talks about his belief that Earth isn't even real and we probably live in a computer simulation. The Matrix, man.
How many angels can dance on the head of a pin? Oh, wait. What the fuck does it matter? Sorry.
Okay. So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Dave Conkle, a buddy of mine, living in China, created the Castle of Blackwood Moor. He did one of the intros for one of the shows. He comes to GaryCon. He comes.
Yes, I met him at
occasion.
GaryCon last year.
Yep.
Super cool dude.
Yeah. So he's like, hey, you wanted to know about creating. So, hey, can you pimp Castle of Blackwood Moor? So I've got links to the Amazon page that he has. Also YouTube. Somebody did a review of it, as well as his Facebook page. So if you haven't heard of it, check it out. It's Dave. Number 4, Azriel Orosha points out 20 things in the lair of the Mummy King, which I think fits the episode relatively well. I haven't read it yet, but I know that the pyramids were always laced with traps to keep tomb raiders out of there, Brett.
Well, that's what they tell us anyway.
Yeah, that's what they tell us. It's
Dusty hallway land with colorful mural. Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So there's obviously some adventure points you could use, inspiration.
Very cool.
And the last one, Eileen, let us know about Haley Nitz's Kickstarter, which I think is still going as of today's date that we're recording. This is October 16th.
Yes, it says 28 days left to go.
Right. And this will drop on podcast catchers on the 18th.
Correct.
So it'll be down to like 26 days. But she is, I believe she is the daughter of a popular comic book artist, if I'm not mistaken. She's trying to make her own way. She's a senior in high school. And she's writing Chasing Hitler comic. And I think that she has been interviewed on a couple other podcasts. Like like the comics. And even Eileen's like, this could make a pretty good RPG.
Yeah.
And if
it's like, I mean, this is like Delta Green fodder and various other things. Like even if you didn't go Delta Green and you just took it in a very mundane, wow, this is kind of cool. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So very talented young lady. Check out her Kickstarter if you're into the comics. I'm very impressed with just even the cover and some of the details. And starting out so young, which is great. There'll be long runway for her, hopefully. Otherwise, yeah.
Pledge levels are low. You're like $10-$20 type of thing. That looks cool. I have to give that a shot.
Yeah, man. If she plays her cards right, man, she'll be able to fund her entire college education by doing some good comics.
That would be really fucking cool. That would be very
wow, cool. Talk about awesome. I want to thank you to Sydney Roundwood from the UK for the kind review on iTunes. That's very much appreciated. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you, Sydney. There we go.
All right, one more thing we almost forgot to mention is the Patreon levels.
Yeah, we've been talking about mucking with them. I mentioned it on a show or two, and it's time to start mucking with them. What are we going to do, Sean?
So I think we've some ideas that we're going to be putting up there. One is actual play. So we'll do an actual play. We'll record it. I don't know if we're going to do it with our group, Brett, or just you and I, or what it is.
We'll figure something out.
One other idea was bow target practice.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Brett's going to shoot an apple off my head.
Yes, absolutely. I will shoot an apple off of Sean's head.
Yeah.
Nothing could go wrong from there. I'm positive I'll be fine.
No. And I'm totally down with it because, I mean, Brett is like modern day Robin Hood.
Pretty much. That reminds me of the Blazing Saddles. See that hand? Steady as a rock. Yeah, but that's my shooting hand.
Sorry. I'm sure it'll be an adventure.
Of course.
We're going to go to the gun range and we'll video it. And I will attempt to outshoot Brett.
I think you probably could. I don't know.
Now, Brett's got a reputation of being Mr. Outdoorsy, bow hunting, shooting, guns.
Yeah, but you're Army. I mean, it's not like you have probably put more bullets down range than I have, honestly. Yeah, you guys, the Army guys shoot a lot.
I've had an expert marksman badge, which is, shooting pretty well. And you're shooting out, 20 years ago. That's true. That is true.
And it's a perishable skill.
That's true too. We'll see.
It'd be worth it though. We'd be like shooting for lunch or something. We'll do that. We can do that.
I think the farthest I've ever had to shoot was standard shooting range for those that have not served in the military. Usually when you go to the range and qualify, you're doing 50 meter, 100 meter, 150, I think 250, 300. I know farthest out is 300.
We could probably, at the range by my place, we could go 25, 50, 100, and we could go out to 200. We could do that.
Yeah, I don't know.
We'll make it work.
Well, now, and I don't have my own weapon, so Brett could be all zeroed, and I may be getting Brett's weapon in it.
Oh, you'll be fine. I wouldn't give you a bum weapon just to win.
I don't think it'll be bum, but you're supposed to zero your sight.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Mine are dead on, dude.
Well, yeah, because you've zeroed it.
I'd let you play with it. That's what I would do. I'd let you. I have an AR. I'd let you monkey with it.
All right. We'll write an adventure.
Yes.
We'll set Bob on fire.
Yes. Well, Bob isn't even on our show, but we will set him on fire.
We will set Bob on fire. If you don't know who Bob is,
check out Misdirected Mark.
Yeah, he's one of the guys over at Misdirected Mark. Old Man Logan, yep. And they are going to set him on fire. So we figured, what the hell? We'll join in and we'll set him on fire maybe another time.
Yeah, exactly. Because because they'll get there first, and by that point they'll have the method sorted out, and Bob will be like, "Yeah, whatever, set me on fire." Yeah. I think that's where we'll be at that point.
So that's one we got listed.
Absolutely.
Brett goes an entire show without swearing.
That's gonna be really fucking hard. That's not gonna be easy. It's gonna, all right.
Don't make me beep all that shit out either.
I won't.
And then the other one, which I have to consult with Brett's biggest fan on, because this may be like astronomical dollar amount.
You talking about going clean shaven?
For to shave Brett's face.
Oh,
Brett, when's the last time you were clean shaven?
As a wife ago.
So how long have you been married?
It's been with Susan for 12 years. It was shit, dude. It's been almost 20 years. I've had some sort of facial hair for like 20 years.
20 years, and Brett would be clean shaven.
No.
Just remember.
No one's got that. No one's got that kind of cash.
Yeah, and then I don't know, we've got some other ideas. If you have any ideas that you would like to see as a patron or not, maybe you're not a patron now, and you would be because we have a certain level.
Crazy fuckers do this thing. I'd throw $1 at that.
Shit, Brett, is going to be clean shaven and I'm going to contribute? Yeah. Or we're going to set Bob on fire? I mean, some of these are like freaking internet gold.
I was trying to get tattoo Sean's ass. I was trying to get that, but Sean's like, oh, that's permanent. And I'm like,
even Brett's hair is going to grow back on his face.
That's true.
I mean, I can't grow hair on my ass to cover that tattoo. I mean, I could, but it's not going to be thick enough.
Not thick enough.
TMI.
way too much. All right.
Brett, what are we talking about next week?
Next week, we're talking about what is heroic. We've Sean and I have been bantering about this one periodically. We'll talk about heroic gaming or stuff like that. We talked a little bit about, epic versus other things, and the concept of what makes a game heroic and so forth is kind of one. I don't know how philosophical we'll wax on this one, but I figured we'd give it a shot, see what we can come up with, and probably get some hate mail in the process, which means we're doing what we're supposed to be doing.
Brett, if you're my hero and you're doing something, does that make you heroic? In my eyes, probably.
Oh, for you, of course. Yeah.
Right.
We've had this talk, Sean. I know.
Well, yeah. That wraps up another episode of Gaming MBS. I'm one of your hosts, Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
Gaming MBS produced with the help from the following patrons: Christian Sexy Voice Serrano, Kevin Lovecraft, Joe Swick, Brett's Biggest Fan, Steve Day, Jeff Rademacher, Forrest Aguirre, Mark Anthony Benedetti, Bruce Cunnington, Eric Jeppesen, Andy Hall, Misdirected Mark Productions, Sean Nicholson, Tim Jensen, Chris Steele, Old School DM, Knights of the Night Crew, Palladian, Jason the Beard Blaylock, Remy Bilodeau, Jason Hobbs, Mirko Froelich, Wayne Lumrunner Humfleet, James Carpio, Not Caprio, Tony Baker, Pure Mongrel, Lord Tentacle, Corey Johnston, Eric Tankar, Brandon Barnes, Mark Tasaka, Brett Pazinski, Tim Shorts, Eileen Barnes, and Chad Knight. Consider becoming a patron. For the cost of a coffee shop coffee, you can support the show for an entire month. Whoa.